All right, let's go, man. I am super excited, Mark, to be for this episode of Success Illustrated. My name is Spencer.
Mark.
Guys, listen, our episodes of Success Illustrated, just for those who are, maybe you're listening for the first time to our podcast, this Success Illustrated, the name really embodies individuals who are the personification of success. We want to hear their real stories. We want to hear the real drama. We want to hear all of the ups and downs. There are a lot of podcasts out there, Mark, that give you the good stuff. They tell you about how they got the big cars. They tell you about the nice houses, but they don't really give you the journey. And on this podcast, we're going to give you the hardcore stuff. We're going to give you the journeys that people have gone on to ultimately become Success Illustrated, right?
Absolutely. A lot of times you'll hear about people winning. You'll see the finish line picture.
Yeah.
You'll see them breaking the tape.
Yep.
But you never see them really getting out of the blocks. So that's what we're going to talk about. How do we put our hands in the mud? How do individuals actually get out the blocks? But before that, what do they have to do? What was the practice like? What were the 5 a.m.s like, right? So we're going to really dive deep into those individual stories of not just the wins, but also the persistence, the determination, the mindset, all of it, so that if you're looking right now, you too can become Success Illustrated.
I love it. It reminds me of the movie Rocky, right? Where people a lot of times will see the championship. They'll see the trophy and the big belt, but they don't see Rocky when he was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, running down that dark road, eating drinking those 6 raw eggs, man. You know what I'm saying? They don't see that part, but they see the championship. That's kind of Success Illustrated. We want you all to hear about the journey, because that is where the majority of people really are. The majority of people listening to the podcast, the majority of people watching the episode, they're in grind mode. They're trying to figure it out, right? Trying to get to the other side. Speaking of the other side, we have 2 fantastic guests on today that are extremely special to me. They are the personification of Success Illustrated. They used to go by the Young Moguls Brand, but they've grown up from that. We've got 2 23-year-old moguls in the house.
Yes.
Welcome to Success Illustrated to Brandon Iverson, that's my son, and my other son, Jordan Williams, man. Congratulations, guys, on all of your success. We're going to hear all about that on the podcast on today, but welcome to Success Illustrated.
Man, thanks for having us. This is Brandon Iverson speaking, the son of the famous Spencer Iverson.
Tell him again.
Our
Say
famous
it loud for
host
people
here,
in the back.
inviting us. I really appreciate you guys inviting us, and I'm happy to get started. So
awesome.
Yes, sir. I think Brandon said it best. This is Jordan Williams. Really excited. I think we're going to have a fun discussion today.
Yeah, man. Listen. These guys are absolutely amazing. I want to give you all some context. If you're a parent out there, stop right now and go get your kids. If you're a parent and you have any child with a goal or a dream of owning their own business, making their own money, stop what you're doing right now. Make sure you get them on this episode and listen intently, because these 2 young men now. I almost said kids. These 2 young men are going to be dropping some nuggets on today, Mark.
Absolutely.
We're going to start with your journey. You all started, wow, man, at 9 and 10 years old, right? But let's talk about the brotherhood first, right? First of all, you all are how old?
23 years old.
Both of you guys are 23. See, I know a lot of interesting facts about these guys, right? You all were born how many days apart?
6 days, ladies and gentlemen.
Right, these guys were born 6 days apart. We used to live across the street from each other. Interesting fact about Jordan's dad, his name is Floyd Williams. Floyd introduced me to the home-based business industry. He was my mentor, and a large part of what we're going to talk about on today, a large part about our other program, Worthy of Millions, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is about mentorship. I had an amazing mentor. His name was Floyd. Jordan's dad introduced me to the home-based business industry. I will always be grateful for your dad. And I remember you guys just as kids, going to our conferences and had on your little suits and everything, man. And so your journey started really, really early. And so let's talk about that first business venture. What prompted you guys to, at 9 and 10 years old, you all were both going to a private school in Atlanta. And I think Brandon came home one day talking about, hey, we're going to, start a newspaper or sell toys. So you guys, whichever one wants to start, but Jordan or Brandon, but talk about how the Young Moguls part and the mindset about being an entrepreneur. Talk about how that started.
Yeah, most definitely. It's a fun story to look back on. Obviously, that story starts with you and my dad, you guys being our mentors. And I think, for us growing up, that was kind of the norm that we saw every day. We saw you and my dad working on their own businesses, writing their own books. and just having that passion for what you guys were doing every day. So naturally that rubbed off on us. I don't remember exactly where it started. I know when we were in elementary school, our first venture was really Kids Toys Inc.
That's right. That's right.
And so I think that started with us kind of, we were following you guys to your meetings. We read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Right.
We were like, okay, let's get to some money here somehow. So we literally, I remember we went to your house. We went through your room, gathered up. Okay, do you play this video game anymore? No, put it in the box. We went to my house, got all the toys we didn't use anymore. We were like, okay, we're going to school and we're selling these. People asked us, what is this called? It's called Kids Toys Inc. That's what we put on the website. So I think that was, what really got our feet wet with entrepreneurship. We started selling newspapers or some things that were happening in school and the news and selling them for 25 cents out of our book bag. So that was really where I think that entrepreneurial drive started.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I really think it started with our parents telling us no. And I think if kids are listening right now, you know what I'm talking about. When your parents tell you no, that's the worst thing you want to hear. And so I was asking my dad a lot when I was 9, 10 years old for the latest shoes, the latest toys, the latest games.
No.
And I was just like, okay, well, how am I going to be able to, impress my friends at school? And, my dad handed me the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad for teens. Anyone listening, that's definitely a book that you should go to the bookstore, Amazon right now and pick up, not only for yourself, but for your kids, is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And we learned a lot of just basic principles from Robert Kiyosaki. And I put them into action as soon as I finished that book. And I went to Jordan. I was like, hey, we got to brainstorm a business because I got to get those latest Jordans. I gotta get that new PS2 game at the time. Right. And we put into motion Kids Toys Inc. And Kids Toys Inc. was basically a company at 10 years old where it was like an online eBay. Everyone knows what eBay is. So we were kind of basically the originators of that. I'm kidding. Right. We're the first ones to do it. But on a more serious note, before Wix.com, before Squarespace, we actually used a program called iWeb.com. A lot of kids out there probably don't even know what iWeb is, right. But it's actually a Mac application that was on the early 2008 Macs where you could create an HTML website. And I learned how to use that using YouTube, and I created kidstoysinc.com, and I put a couple of my toys, a couple of my video games on there. Told my friends at school, like, hey, we're selling some games at a cheap price, and we were able to stuff our pockets that way pretty quickly. So that's kind of the beginning of our entrepreneurial journey.
See, that's crazy, how industrious it even listening as a parent, I remember that's what Brandon would do. He'd be in his room and he's watching these YouTube videos. We're dating ourselves, but there was no YouTube when we came in. There was no instruction. We had Encyclopedia Britannica, right? We had A to Z, that's all we could do. But we had no how-to videos. And so I remember you guys, if you didn't know something, and you didn't get the answer quickly, you guys would just go teach yourself coding or whatever it was that you needed. You guys became graphic designers, clothing designers, filling the void and learning a whole lot in the process, building a business, even in elementary school, because we said no. They wanted their own money, right? So you went from Kids Toys Inc. and learning a little bit about that. You got a little bit older, and then that led to something else. What did that lead to?
Yeah, so the Kids Toys Inc. days, I think that was kind of in elementary school. And then we got to middle school, and by this time, you guys were having meetings. I think it was every Tuesday, right? Tuesday. So Tuesday night I remember the hotel, down the street from our house, you guys would have the meeting, and we would sit in the room, and you guys would go over a lot of different topics on leadership, on, just finances, money management, investing. And you guys would pay us like $10 or $20 to help set up.
That's right.
So we were coming to get the money to set up, but we had to sit in the meeting and listen all day. I remember we were in the back one day saying, this is good information. It would be cool if a lot of our other peers, were listening, were able to get this information. So we were like, okay, we'll take what we learned, we'll put it in our own way when we were, 13 years old, whatever at the time, and put it on CDs, and we'll start selling that at school instead of video games. Wow. So, that's how Making Money for Teens started, is what we called it. And, we were making CDs on topics like investing, money management. That's when we, wrote our first book called Who Needs an Allowance, that we were, sharing all this information just in a simple way of how people our age could really get into investing, learn about money. And that was really what got us, I think, in our more serious entrepreneurial endeavor too.
You know, one question I want to ask is, I heard you talking about you had mentors and your parents. Mm-hmm. Now, there maybe many people right now that either don't have parents that are entrepreneurial, or maybe there's some parents that aren't there. Sure. But I heard also something else. You said you were, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. You were reading other books. You were watching YouTube, right? So let's talk about the ability to be mentored without someone being present.
That's good.
Right. If you could kind of let the audience know, you don't have to have a physical person there. Because I'll give you an example. In my world, I grew up, and when I got into this home-based business arena, I listened to thousands of audios of other people. So I was mentored by people I never met. I met some of them later in life. But talk about how you can get information from other sources and be mentored by that information. And it actually took you into making your own digital products. We'll talk about that in a minute as well.
Yeah, especially today in this digital age, us as millennials, we have information at the touch of our fingertips, right? And so if you don't have someone that's accessible to you, whether that's a parent, whether that's a teacher, or anyone in your life that you feel can help you reach that next level, then you can find it online. You can find it at your local bookstore. Jordan's actually the book guru. I mean, he reads probably a book a week, so he can tell you more about some of his recommendations. But Robert Kiyosaki was one of my biggest inspirations growing up, someone that was not physically present, but someone that I could relate to just by turning a page. And he really kind of put me on my steps to becoming an entrepreneur, right? And I think if you just kind of use the power of the internet, watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts like this, like Success Illustrated, and really, use that to your advantage, then you're able to use that as a mentorship component of your life. So,
yeah, I agree. I think Brandon hit on the head. I think obviously we've been blessed with, parents who are great mentors. Who and we'd be lying if we didn't say that makes it easier, of having those people directly in our household who we can go to get that business advice, that good life advice. Mm-hmm. And I think a thing you realize is there's always going to be, as great as those mentors or those parents can be, there's always going to be something they don't know. Mm-hmm. And we'll probably talk about it later, but you get into that, even as we're getting into the crypto and NFT space now. That's the space I can't really go to my dad, when we first started learning about it, and be like, okay, can you teach me up on this? So then what you're saying is where that comes into play. Okay, how can I have other mentors who can teach me on those things when the people around me can't directly teach me? I think Brandon hit on the head with, YouTube, with books. I think one thing I love that my dad instilled in me at a young age was never to really have dead time.
That's
so
good.
Whenever we were, driving, whenever we were
That's good.
on the way to anywhere, something was playing.
That's right.
on the disc.
Your dad had more cassettes in his car
crazy.
with personal development, and just looping how to be a better person, how to be a better businessman. It was amazing,
ad
man.
nauseum, to the point where it was, when things in life come up, certain Les Brown quotes.
That's right. That's right.
Jeff Olson, all these individuals, and so I see that as all of those people were my mentors too. Robert Kiyosaki was a mentor. Les Brown, all these Zig Ziglar, all the people we were listening to in the car.
Man. Those are some of the $1,000 or the thousands of CDs that I purchased back in the day. Right?
And that's a powerful thing. So I think now it evolves. It might not be a CD anymore, but you have YouTube at the at your fingertips. You have masterclass, whatever it may be, to really just tap into that expertise that's out there.
So for me, as a parent, and again, to the listeners who may be just jumping in halfway, to the Success Illustrated podcast, we've got Brandon Iverson and Jordan Williams, two young moguls who at 23 years old now, have laid the foundation for an empire, right? They have been featured in a ton of magazines and articles. We'll talk about that in a second. But as a parent, my father, was also one of my mentors, just like we were you alls, right? My dad was a preacher. And even as a preacher, he was an entrepreneur, because he had control of his time, right? And my dad was at all the basketball games, all the track meets, because he had control of his time. And so when I was growing up, Mark, I knew I didn't want to be a preacher. That's another podcast episode. But I knew I wanted to have control of my time. I never saw my dad punch a clock. I never saw my dad ask another grown man for permission to go to lunch. And again, no disrespect to people who work a job, but I knew I wanted control of my time, right? And what entrepreneurship did, and me and your father will talk about it all the time, what entrepreneurship did for Spencer Iverson is it allowed me to be a professional dad. it allowed me to spend the important moments of my life where it mattered most with my kids. You know, we used to, me and your dad, we were the AAU basketball coaches, right? And we were the cleanest dressed coaches in the league. Dude, Pat Riley had nothing on us.
And there's pictures to prove it.
And there's pictures to prove it, right? Yeah. We would walk in and you would think, man, that we were sponsored by GQ magazine, because we would coach and then we would leave and have to go do a conference. We had to leave and go to a hotel and do a train. We would leave and to go catch a flight, right? You know, but that's what, I mean, it was great. But that's what entrepreneurship taught me, Mark. Yeah. It gave me time freedom, right? So when Brandon went to college and people were like, oh man, it must hurt, man. You know, time sure flies. I was like, no, it didn't. I felt every one of those 18 years. And I'm grateful for that. Sure. Because now, his time in college flew because we weren't together. I mean, it seemed like I dropped him off and the next he was graduating. Sure. But when he was in school, like in grade school, oh man, because we had a ball, man. Yeah. We did some amazing things. So it led to, so we had the toys, and then we went to, and again, it was crazy because you all were like 11, 12, 13 talking about stocks and bonds and mutual funds. They had on their little suits, man, and they were talking at churches. You all need to invest in stocks, and there's a bull market and a bear market. So
it's funny because it's true.
Yeah. Sometimes I go back and listen to those recordings. I'm just like, how's my voice that high back then?
And so it's just, but you were laying the foundation, right? And so then came the apparel, right? Talk to us about the breakout of Young Moguls Brand, because all of that led to some really, really big stuff happening, right?
Yeah, Young Moguls was really a culmination of everything that we learned on our entrepreneurial journey. We really wanted to sit down and find a product that was tangible and build a brand and build an empire on top of that. And what better way to do that with clothing? You know, everyone loves fashion, and everyone, has their own definition of fashion. And we wanted to portray that in our own way, but also promote financial education, leadership, and just overall entrepreneurship for young people. And so that's how Young Moguls Brand was created. We started it at 16 years old as juniors in high school. And, we started off with, basic, simple T-shirts, and then it kind of grew into hoodies and hats and joggers, really anything that, kids and teens liked at the time. And it really kind of opened up some new doors for us.
Oh yeah, man. I remember and the gear was fresh, man. You all would be designing, and you all learned every aspect of it. So talk about some of the, there may be some young folks out there who want to get into, fashion and design, and there are a lot of people, and it's hot right now. I mean, it's, there used to be really dominant brands out there, but now, man, it seems to me like, Mark, there are so many different designers that the people aren't just wedded to, like we grew up, had FUBU and, had, Izod,
Adidas, Lacoste.
Now you got, man, if it's just hot, people will wear it almost irrespective of brand. And here's what I'm getting at. I remember you all had to find an apparel. You had to find a manufacturer, right? So you found a manufacturer where?
Our first manufacturer was in China, if I'm not mistaken, and then the quality was terrible. If you can find a good manufacturer in China, then big ups to you. But we jumped around China and it just wasn't working out because of the time barrier. They're 12 hours ahead. The language barrier, getting the right measurements. A small to us is a large to them. Yeah. So
found that out the hard way,
right? So the sizing was off. So a lot of capital was lost in the beginning, just tinkering with manufacturers. Then we moved to Pakistan for a little bit. That was a little bit better, but not the best quality that we wanted. We wanted the highest quality, regardless of how much capital we had or anything like that. We wanted to make sure that we were giving the highest quality to our customers. So really the best advice I would give is to continue to tinker with your designs, tinker with the manufacturers until you find what you're looking for. And we stumbled upon a manufacturer in Vietnam. And his name is Tan, and we've been working with him for the past 3-4 years now. Right. But without the failures in China and Pakistan and all the different countries that we went overseas, we wouldn't have landed on the one in Vietnam where he provided the best of both worlds, highest quality and lowest cost too. So, yeah.
And that was the thing, and that's what I was driving at, and wanted to kind of elicit is that you all learn, even though it may have seemed like failure to a lot of people, wow, we failed in China, we failed in Pakistan. No, you were learning along the way, learning what not to do, right? And guys, if you're listening, that's a part of the process. Fail forward. It's okay to fail. Just fail forward. Just learn. Don't keep staying in China and knowing that, in your case, China wasn't working, right? You had to pivot. And this is at 16 years old. So you all were balancing. Jordan, amazing basketball player, guys, had a killer jump shot out of this world, would light you up with 30 a night.
Same
These guys could play some basketball, right? So you all were balancing sports, you're balancing church, you're balancing school, and you're balancing a business. And again, even as an adult, right? It's still balancing. It's no different, right? Mark,
Sure.
We're just balancing different things. We're balancing sometimes church, you're balancing kids, you're balancing work. Oh, and also I want to start my own company. I want to start my own business. It's still balanced and it's hard. How at 16 years old were you all balancing? Because other things happen. I'm going to show you guys some. If you're watching, you can see now, but their foray into fashion led them to an appearance on the Steve Harvey show. There's a graphic right now for those of you listening. These guys are actually on the set of the Steve Harvey show. I remember that day like it was yesterday. That was a whole lot of fun. I mean, we were just so proud because we're in the green room. These guys getting the makeup done, and then in Jordan, you went to the Disney Dreamers with Steve Harvey, right? Both you and Brandon went on different years, but went to the Disney Dreamers. I want you to talk about that in a hot second. What that mentorship meant. Jordan, you had a chance to introduce this picture to those who are watching.
Yeah, so this picture, we can talk about it later, but when we were in college, me and some friends did an annual summit that was called the YED Summit. YED standing for Youth Entrepreneurs Diversity Summit. And we would have, college students that were interested in entrepreneurship come and have, some mentors for them who were entrepreneurs themselves. So this one was an interview we did with Paul Rivera, who has a brand called Run with the Winners, who, sometimes you'll see LeBron and other athletes wear the brand. And so he's actually a business partner of LeBron. He's one of the co-founders with LeBron of the show called The Shop on HBO. And also, works with LeBron's media company called Spring Hill Entertainment. So this was a great opportunity to get to chat with him.
Man, so Mark, what we see, and again, I know that you all have been featured. You all were, and this is just a small sample. Black Enterprise, Essence Magazine, Tom Joyner, Cruise twice, right? You all were featured presenters at the Tom Joyner Family Vacation, Family Reunion, Steve Harvey, the Huffington Post, PBS Kids, Good Day Atlanta, and the list goes on. And you all were able to parlay all of this media and some of these opportunities, like the Steve Harvey show. They wrote you all a big check and invested in your business, and you all got millions of viewers around the world, who saw your story. The story is still out there. Mm-hmm. And it really just kind of set the table for where you are now. And Jordan, you went on and wrote another book, and I think you got a copy of it. Tell us about Breaking the System.
Yeah, so Breaking the System is this one is from 2019. Okay. So about junior year of college for me and Brandon, and really it's just about a lot of the lessons I was kind of learning while I was in school. Okay. A lot of the lessons that me and Brandon learned while we were doing Young Moguls Brand. Not as much a business book, but more so like a life book, Good. For young people who are going through transitions in terms of figuring out career, figuring out college, whether they want to go to college or not, things of that nature, and just finding their unique way to, break the system, to improve the system for the people who are coming behind them as well.
Right. One thing I heard you guys talk about earlier, it came up a few times. I want to talk about this. I heard you say your dad told you no, your dad told you no, right? And then I also heard you say, well, maybe we didn't find the best quality when we were looking for, manufacturing. So that was another no. So what I'm hearing is no didn't mean that you couldn't do it. No meant you couldn't do it that way. Mm. And most people would stop at that point, right? So what in your mind said, you know what, I know it can be done, but this may not be the right path, but I'm going to keep going. So what was that I'm going to keep going thing? What was that said, I got to make it happen, but just can't happen this way?
I would definitely say that, one of the biggest keys to entrepreneurship is having a vision, right? If you're not a visionary, then, I don't think entrepreneurship is the best route for you. So I think our vision was pretty crystal clear growing up, what we wanted to do, what we wanted to accomplish. And we knew we were going to hit some bumps in the road. And that came at the luxury of having mentors like my dad and Jordan's dad, Floyd Williams, seeing how they overcame obstacles and built businesses from scratch, and writing books and being able to inspire millions of people. So kind of having that blueprint really helped helped us, understand that, okay, we have a vision for ourselves and we know that there's going to be bumps in the road. One quote that I like from Walt Disney is that, we have to quit talking as entrepreneurs, but start taking action, right? And you have to expect failure as an entrepreneur. A lot of people don't expect failure. And I think that comes from a number of factors. The first one being social media. Especially as young people, we see entrepreneurship really glamorized.
Right.
You see the vacations, you see the luxury and the fashion and the watches on Instagram and Facebook, and people think that entrepreneurship is fun, right? I think that's one of the biggest myths in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, it's fun at times, but it's not always fun, right? And you hear the stories that we're telling you that there's a lot that goes into entrepreneurship. It takes a lot of your energy. There's a lot of sacrifices that have to be made. Ooh. And I mean, me and Jordan learned that early. Going through college, sometimes we had to miss a party, or we wouldn't be able to go out with our friends because we had to work on a speaking engagement slide deck, right? Literally. Or go out of town to Louisiana to go to Essence Fest, right? So there's a lot that goes into entrepreneurship that people don't realize. You have to expect failure. You have to have a vision, right? And when you put those two things together, then the sky's the limit.
So I heard you say that vision. I think it's imperative, right? I think a lot of folks listening, they can agree with you at that point, right? Yeah. But there are a lot of people listening right now that because you're here, they're gonna be able to believe bigger a little bit faster, and because of podcasts like these and information like this, right? Individuals like you, they can collapse time because now they can stand on what I call the shoulders of giants. Mm-hmm. You've already walked the walk. But I want you to talk to now like people like me, right? My father wasn't in my life growing up, right? Yeah. Someone that's out there now saying, you know what, I don't have the luxury of that resource. I don't have the luxury of that backup. The luxury of that person saying, you know what, keep going, right? Mm-hmm. So talk to them and tell them that it's okay to fail. Because see, sometimes people fail, but they don't have, that Moses didn't have. They had two people in Moses' arms. When he got tired, somebody held his arms up. Right. They don't have someone on either side. So talk to that person and let them know it's okay to fail, but fail forward or plug in it, get some more information. From your mouth, tell them exactly what it is they should do to keep going, because victory is not one battle, it's a continuation of battles.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think, it's interesting because me and Brandon have just been talking about a book that's called Atomic Habits. And it's, one of the chapters in the book is about, sort of after an experience, whether it's a win, whether it's a loss, literally journaling and recapping this experience. Okay, what did I do well? What needs to be better? Who can keep me accountable to do better in this experience next time? And I think it's a lot of times, if you look at people who are really great at what they do, whether it's an entrepreneur, whether it's an athlete, they're almost crazy about the attention to detail post experience in terms of paying attention to, okay, this might be the most smallest thing, but this didn't go right, and here's exactly how I can make sure this doesn't happen again. And I think a lot of times success, it's skill, but it's also people who have been able to put in the most reps and pay attention after those reps.
That's Steph Curry all day.
Yeah. Literally, people who have gotten up that many shots and they're fanatical about, I've paid attention to this, small detail 10,000 times, so I know I won't get it wrong the next time I do it. So I think that's important. I think one thing we learned about at Disney Dreamers that's also important, related to what you talked about, is exposure. And I think that was the whole purpose of the Disney Dreamers event, was to be, for them to show kids our age that, okay, a lot of kids just don't know what to dream, or they haven't been in situations where they see what's possible. And, until you get out of that box, it kind of puts a cap on what you even think is possible for your life. And sometimes you'll have a program like Disney Dreamers that will do that for you. And sometimes you have to, expose yourself. If it's, okay, can I go to this person and ask you about, what do you do on a daily basis? What's your job? And just pick people's brains, read books, listen to videos, just anything to sort of expose you to that. But
inherent in even what you just said is a little bit of humility. You got to be you got to be willing to be that guy, that girl, that person who's willing to go to someone and not act like you got it all together, but be vulnerable to advice. be vulnerable to mentorship. And as adults now, that's what Mark and I run into. Everybody has all the answers, right? Like Will Smith in Pursuit of Happiness, the opening scene. Will Smith is carrying this raggedy device that he's got to sell to eat, right? He's walking in front of this big building. A guy in a tailored suit in a Ferrari parks in front of the building, walks up the steps. Will Smith is not in a position to judge this guy. He puts the little device down. He goes and asks the guy, man, what's your name and what do you do for a living, right? That was the start of his journey. What do a lot of people do? Oh man, that ain't his car, man. He probably live in an apartment complex. He probably renting that. It's just versus humbling ourselves and saying, just trying to find out. Here's what also I've learned about successful people. A lot of successful people love talking about themselves and telling you what they love, what they do. They love. You just gotta ask, man. They love, man. How did you get this? Oh man, this is what I do. Right. And so I love the fact that you brought out the fact that, asking someone now Disney Dreamers, for those of you who may not be familiar with that program, that was Steve Harvey's kind of mentorship program. He would bring in, it was a real picky process. They brought in how many
100.
kids? 100. Was it minorities?
Minorities out of 10,000.
100 minorities out of 10,000 to Orlando. He had a partnership with Disney. And I watched both of these young men. I watched both of y'all's lives just change. They were already dynamic, Mark, but going to Disney's Dreamers and then coming back, they were like different people and I'll always be grateful to Steve Harvey for what he did with that program, because he would bring in celebrities, people from different walks of life to talk to the kids. And there were sessions where the parents couldn't even go in. He just wanted, so talk a little bit, because parents try to find, how much did that cost you guys? Let me help you. Nothing. It didn't cost them nothing. Right. Because this was Steve Harvey's way of giving back. But it also took parents being open to, hey, as opposed to sending your kids, wherever for the summer, looking for opportunities to open and expose your kids to things like this. Because not only did you all hear from great speakers and other entrepreneurs, but you all built relationships and expanded your network amongst other peers and contemporaries who were just like you from around the country, right? So talk a little bit about the impact that kind of exposure had for you at that point in your life.
Yeah, I'll let you speak on that as well, because you went first. So it happened that Brandon went to Disney Dreamers first. Okay. And I remember Brandon was in Orlando there, and he didn't really tell me where he was going to. He just was like, yeah, I'm going to this, this conference. I'll send you some pictures when I'm there. So I'm like, okay, have fun, I guess. Doesn't sound like it'll be fun. And I'm watching his stories on Instagram, and I'm like, hold up, he's with Cam Newton. He's on the Steve Harvey show. All this stuff, and he's meeting all these celebrities, and it literally looked like Brandon had the best week of his life, which he may say it was. And so the next year, I was like, okay, I got the date on my calendar. Literally, I set a reminder to apply, and I'm glad I did, because, like you said, it was something I always say changed my life. Literally, in terms of, I agree with what you said. Brandon and I were both motivated before we went. But I think it kicked us into a different gear when we went, because just being in that environment surrounded by like-minded people who, think like you, they're not going around, talking about a lot of stuff that doesn't matter. They're vulnerable enough to talk about, yes, I have a dream and I have a passion and I want to be this when I grow up. And having those type of conversations, but also seeing people who are those people that everybody is saying they want to be, and having those people sit down in a room with you and, like you said, tell the adults to leave and tell you straight up, like, if this is what you want, if this is the life you want, this is what you'll have to sacrifice to get it. And just giving that blueprint, because I think a lot of times the kids at the event didn't know those things were possible. They didn't know they could have any other option besides, working a job that's a 9 to 5, or going to school and getting a job and just, saving money from there. A lot of different ideas start to pop into your head when you see people who, give you different routes to go in life. So I think that's what it was most valuable for me. What would you say, Brandon?
Yeah, just kind of telling my perspective. Like he said, I went first, and so I didn't really know what I was getting into, to be honest. I think my mom was the one that brought it to my attention. Like, hey, you can go to Walt Disney for free. So that's the only thing I heard. I just wanted to be able to go to the park for free, and I heard Steve Harvey might be there. Wasn't sure. I knew his name was attached, so I went down to Orlando, Florida. I met the 99 other individuals in a big break room networking session, and then Steve Harvey came on stage. I was like, oh wow, he actually is here, and he kind of gave the spiel about the entire event, and from there I realized the magnitude of what I got myself into, and the different celebrities that I met, the different leaders, TD Jakes, in all facets and industries was amazing, right? Not only them, but also the individuals that were there. I mean, there were people who were, graphic artists, people who were entrepreneurs, people, who were academically smart, right? So it just really motivated me and, let me know, like, I'm not the only one, right? There's a lot of talented individuals out there, and it allowed me to, stay in contact with those people to this day. One of the things that I took away from that event was that session, that closed off session with Steve Harvey, where he didn't let any cameras in the building, no parents, and he gave it to us real. And one of the principles that he made us walk away with is write down 400 things that you want in life. Right. And I think it's easy to write down 10 things that I want in life, maybe 20 things, but 400, that's a lot of things, right? And I think Jordan had to do that exercise as well, and it really just allows an individual to kind of hone in on what they want out of life. It can be as simple as, I want a Tesla, right? I want a private jet. But then once you kind of get those physical things out of the way, then you have to dig deeper. Like, what do I really want out of life? What do I want to accomplish? What do I want to leave for my family? What do I want to leave what legacy do I want to leave for myself? And I'm sure people have also heard this story. Steve Harvey also talks about it on his talk show and also on Family Feud. But he told us that there's a moment in life that you have to take where you have to jump, right? You can't live this life on earth doing the same thing every day, which is wake up, go to 9 to 5, and go to sleep, right? There has to be a moment in your life where you have to take a leap. You have to take a jump at least one time, right? To let yourself know that, hey, at least I tried. At least I went after my passion in life. I went after this journey because it's important to me, right? And that's something that really stuck with me, because I don't want to leave this life not taking that risk, not going after every single goal, every single passion that I want to go after. And Steve Harvey really instilled that into everyone there. And that's something that I'll probably always take with me. So hopefully people that are listening do the same thing.
Exposure is amazing. Yeah. Go ahead, Mark. I think
I'm ready to expose myself right now.
Oh, no. That's a different episode, different topic.
Different episode.
Okay, so we've done elementary school, we've done high school, and then Jordan was blessed to go to get accepted to the Wharton School of Business at UPenn. Is that right? UPenn. And then Brandon also got accepted to Georgetown University. You had some amazing college. Well, first of all, congratulations. Super proud of you all. Those are two amazing institutions. But also talking, you all stayed, obviously, y'all are brothers there, and then we go and see each other. But I remember you guys going to like St. Louis, and you all would be speaking with like the founder of Redbox and stuff. And you all have been on stage with Les Brown. I mean, just you've had an amazing journey. And again, at 23, you've built up this wealth of experience to where now, you've gone through your collegiate experiences. You met some great connections. You maintained that same entrepreneurship drive, even in college. You got involved in programs as young entrepreneurs and business professionals, even in college. And again, Brandon, you mentioned it earlier about sacrifice. There were times when you guys couldn't go to parties. There are guys today I went to Georgia Tech. There are guys who I know today that I've seen who are professional athletes who knew me in college, and they know what I'm doing now, and they have said, dude, you the same guy, man. Dude, I remember a time we trying to get you to go out, and you're like, no, I'm working on this program. Because I was, even in college, I didn't want to waste any time. I have this mantra for my life, live a life of no regrets. We always talk about, Mark, we know exactly how much money we have in the bank. We don't know how much time we have left. Therefore, we do not let people waste it, right? And so you all have maximized your time, and now you all have both become, you've gone into the financial planning services arena with Fortune 500, Fortune 50 companies, both of you. Talk about now that transition as quote unquote adults, right? into now wealth management and financial planning. Jordan, talk first about what it is that you do, because you do something a little bit different than Brandon, right? And then we're going to have a higher level conversation to wrap this up about, wealth building, financial planning, and what that means, even why someone at 20, 21, 22 years old right now should be concerned about good credit, diversifying your assets, multiple streams of income. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I think this is always a great discussion. I've always been passionate about finance and investing and banking. I know Brandon is as well. So right now, my role is I work within a bank in a group that's called, the Business Transition Advisory Group. So our group is focused on helping business owners and entrepreneurs as they go through business transitions. And those transitions can be a multitude of different things. It could be someone who's built up a business and now they're at a point where they want to sell their business and cash out, maybe for retirement or to go into another one. It could be a business owner who wants to have a dividend recap and take a little bit of money out of the business to get some money of the success they've had. It could be a big business that's passing on to the next generation. The kids are starting to run the business now. And so our group basically helps advise them throughout those transitions, to help them with tax planning, to help them with structuring of the business, to focus on, okay, after you sell the business, what do you want your personal life to be like? Have you thought about that? What will you do? What's the next business you'll go to? And so a lot of times this can be ideally a 3 to 5 year process of preparing a business on the books or even in the person's personal life to be ready for a transition, to make sure that the next generation is ready for that as well. And then on the back end, help, taking care of the personal wealth side. So after you sell a business, do you have a wealth advisor ready for this millions of dollars that are about to come into your account?
Wow.
So that you know how to manage that influx of money you might not have had before. So it's an interesting space. I think for me, it's interesting because I'm interested in eventually doing what Brandon's doing in terms of, being a wealth advisor, especially if it's in sports and entertainment, and getting to, work with clients directly. But you see a lot of interesting stories in the position I'm in of family businesses, of entrepreneurs, learning how they adapt and sometimes try to figure out, okay, if I sell my business that was my baby before, what's my identity now, and how do I figure that out? So it's been an interesting role so far, and I think it'll be a good learning opportunity.
I love it
too.
I love it. B.
Yeah, so on the flip side, I also work with a Fortune 50 company as a comprehensive financial planner. So while Jordan mainly focuses on businesses, I focus mainly on individuals and families, and I help them in a multitude of different ways. A couple of those being cash and debt management, helping with what's coming in, what's coming out, which debts to prioritize. Also with protection, making sure that they have a foundation of their financial house. So that includes, life insurance, umbrella insurance, business insurance. I do some small business planning as well. And then I also help with asset allocation and investments, investing not only for the short term, but for the long term. When should you start taking distributions from your retirement accounts? Also tax management as well, because it's not always about what you're earning, but it's about what you keep.
There it is.
So I really help my clients with, managing their taxes, teaching about the tax triangle and things like that. So I work with my clients in a multitude of different ways with the things that I just mentioned, and really just helping them reach their financial goals for the short term and the long term.
So let's talk about, are most people open, to conversations about, financial planning, because Brandon handles my money, just full disclosure. He handles my money because I know how to make it, and Brandon knows how to make more money, right? But are most people open to conversations about financial planning, and as you're talking to these clients and advising them?
Depends on the person.
Oh yeah. Oh wow.
The higher the net worth, the more open they are about their money, right?
Is that right?
Right.
That's what I've seen.
Because the myth, interrupt you, but the myth is people that have a lot of money are tight and they don't spend money and That's how they keep it. That's how they made it. So, I mean, expand on that.
Yeah. So to clarify, I just mean having a conversation about where their money's coming from, right? How much money they have, what different streams of revenue they have. But for individuals who, may only have one paycheck coming in, they might feel a little bit more closed off. They feel like it's a more taboo area of their life.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So let me butt in because I see. I know Brandon. See, right now Brandon is in polite mode, right? He didn't want to say what needs to really be said. So let me help further this along. Brandon, have you seen anything drawn along racial lines, right? As it relates to some of your clients and openness to discuss financial planning and putting plans in place?
Yes. As a short answer, yes, I definitely have. As a financial advisor, I want to work with everyone, right? But one of the reasons why I wanted to be a financial advisor was to help the African American community, because to answer your question, they are the specific set of clients who are less likely to work with a financial planner, less likely to have a long-term plan built for not only themselves, but for building generational wealth. And, frankly, it's tougher to work with them, tougher to sell your services because of multiple reasons that we can definitely dive into. So that's something that I'm really trying to penetrate right now is that African American market, because it's easy to, work with a white 65-year-old lady because they have everything together. They know they have enough money in the bank. They just need someone to kind of help manage it. But it's harder to work with a 30-year-old African-American male who thinks they have it all together because that's just kind of our mentality. It's all about mentality at the end of the day with finances. And that's something I'm trying to break, something that I'm trying to help people expand their minds on is like, you don't have it all figured out, right? That's why you can come to an expert such as myself and such as my team that I work with. So to answer your question, African American is definitely is something I'm trying to help out.
But isn't it in some cases, where we're products of our environment? Most African American families, statistically live paycheck to paycheck. We're just trying to get it, and so whatever it is that we typically get, we spend. The African American population is the largest consumer group anywhere, right? We're great at spending. But, we're woefully behind in the saving component. And I've overheard, some of Brandon's conversations with some of his other clients, and one in particular who was just talking about how they had a family legacy already in place financially. They are really, really good. But she was literally just concerned about, I only during my lifetime want to spend from this family legacy what I need so the rest of the legacy can continue. I was blown away. That was what was instilled in her, that somewhere in her generation, somewhere in her family lineage, the concept had been taught that you were to be a good steward of the family legacy. Take what you need, enjoy your life, but leave and put a game plan in place for the generations to follow. And that's why I'm super proud of what Brandon and Jordan are doing now, because we need more families, black, white, green, blue, whatever, more families with that mindset about building wealth, but then leaving a legacy. The biggest legacy that most of us leave is debt.
Sure.
How are we going to pay for this funeral?
GoFundMe.
Right. Go. Oh my God! Don't even start with that. Right. GoFundMe. Right.
By the way, GoFundMe is not an insurance plan.
Yeah, and it's not one of the sponsors for the show. Anyway, so that's that. I'm passionate about that. Because we got the nice cars. Oh, we put the rims. Oh, we got the great. We go on the great vacations. Oh, Carnival Cruise. But when it comes to leaving money behind, man, we are the ultimate consumers. When does that stop?
Let me ask you. I interrupt you. Let me ask you guys this. I heard about this wealth principle, right? A friend of mine that manages some of my money exposed me to it. So, where the insurance plan that you buy, right? Let's for round numbers say $100,000 insurance policy. The teaching or the philosophy is you take 80% of it and you pass it forward to your benefactors or those you just you allocate it to, right? But you dictate that 20% has to fund a new insurance policy for their kids. And they teach that behavior. So now the life insurance policy, insurance, by the way, is, if you agree, is a transference of risk. Yep. Right?
Yep.
Okay. So we agree that it's a transference of risk. Then we take some of that money, right, and we give it to the future generation, but we also say this 20%, this X percent goes and funds additional policies. And when they teach that new behavior, we've now created wealth by using other people's money.
Wow.
Yep.
Can you guys expound on that, or is that a good philosophy?
It's a great philosophy, and it all goes into estate planning, which African Americans are at the bottom of doing. Right, we don't take into account estate planning and legacy planning, and I think that's a great strategy when it comes to life insurance, because a lot of people think of life insurance just for the death benefit, right? Which is, I'm going to leave $100,000 in this situation tax-free to my beneficiaries, but we don't take into account, okay, when they have the money, what they're going to do with it, right? And so that's when estate planning comes into place, where you put it into a will, maybe think about putting that life insurance policy into a trust, and then put in the trust document that, hey, 80% will go to you tax-free. You can use that money as you will, but then this other 20%, you then need to, put into a cash value life insurance policy. So then you can do the same thing I just did before I passed away, which is build that equity in that life insurance policy. But if you don't communicate that to your clients about the estate planning aspect of how this money should be allocated to those beneficiaries, then it's never going to get done. And really all that work that you did of building a legacy is kind of gone to waste, because then your kids and your kids' kids are going to spend that money, and in a few years' time, that money's gone. So that's great. And I want to go back to this earlier point. You guys talked about when you didn't know something growing up that you would go to YouTube. Amazing when YouTube first came out, because it gave us all this new information. It got us beyond Encyclopedia Britannica, right? The downside, in my experiences, is that people want detailed, in-depth information and go to YouTube. Here's my point. At some point, you got to pay the expert.
Oh, man. It's true. Oh, my God.
At some point, you have to pay the expert, right? So if I own a business, and again, I'm looking at maybe selling my business, handing it down to my family, I need to come and pay, Jordan, right? If I have insurance needs, if I have, to identify the type of life insurance, and I have a special needs son. And, all my life I heard, buy a term, invest. I've heard that all my life, right? And there's a place for that. But there's also a place for whole life insurance. There's a place for different types of insurance. But if we don't know what we need, right, we just need to go to the expert. And not our cousin who owes us $20, right? So my bigger point is, when we need to go pay the expert, and the expert is someone that went and they work for a larger company. They've had the experiences. They have a team behind them, right? And so we can't shortcut the shortcut. So talk about, why should we pay the expert?
Well, to sum it all up, we got to get out of the hookup mentality.
Right? Yes.
Give me, I want the hookup. Talk about getting out of the hookup mentality.
Yeah, I mean, my view of this is, life is a game of alternatives. So a lot of people get caught up on.
Say it again.
People back need to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, life is a game of alternatives. And a lot of times people, get caught up on what you'll pay the expert now, but you also have to compare that to what paying the expert now will save you from paying if you don't pay the expert today. And I think that's very important. When we talk about people who are experts, like Brandon at what he's doing, he mentioned the word planning a lot, and I think that's really the key in conversations like this, is the expert is going to take you in this situation from being reactive to being proactive. So the expert knows that long-term, 3 years, 5 years, this is what you need to be thinking about, so that when this comes up, you're not scrambling trying to get a life insurance policy now. The planner knows that, okay, this is how we get you set up in advance of investing, of life insurance, or whatever it may be, so that whatever comes up down the line, we've foreseen all the issues that can come up. And it's the same if we're talking about, business transitions. A lot of times people last minute want to sell their business when the market's good, or when, a lot of businesses are selling like they are now, but your business isn't ready to sell. You haven't been focusing on your accounting. You haven't been focusing on getting the right tax, advice ahead of time. That can take 2 to 3 years. And as a result, that may be the difference for, you selling your company for 10 million or 35 million based on when you started preparing. So that's what you're really saving when you go to the expert.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a quick story on that. I have a great friend, and it's actually happened to me. My friend's story, just heard the other day. I think he shared it with both of us.
Okay.
He has a friend as well who is an entrepreneur, but his friend teaches a course. Okay. So he went to his friend and said, hey, man, I want to come and sit in your course. Right? The guy said, hey, no problem at all. The course is $5,000. No problem. Just, go online, take care of it. Man, I can't wait to see you. He's like, dude, I'm your guy. Like, why should I pay for this course? Right? I mean, you were just
I want to hook up.
You were just on my deal, and I didn't. But he wanted the hookup. He wanted
Friends and family.
Right, friends and family. He wanted the discount, right? Or he wanted to just come and sit in. I've been guilty of that, so I'm not going to say right. Yeah. But see, here's the thing: he went to that course begrudgingly.
Right.
Begrudgingly. That's the word he used, right? Begrudgingly. But when he got there, guess what? It wasn't the information, the course, that really set him off. It was very valuable information. But he met a guy that was at the course who did something similar that he did, and he gave him one tip, and he made made $40,000 that week.
That week.
Because he spent $5,000. Yeah. He was holding on to this little bit and almost missed the larger piece. But here's what happened. He got there, and there was an upsell. There's always an upsell, right?
Yeah, of course.
So he got there, but the gentleman that his buddy, his boy said, you know what? It's $5,000 to come to the course, but he made $40,000 that week. But when he got there was an upsell for another course, a 3-day course for $35,000. He said, man, there's no way I'm paying you this full amount.
Yeah.
And the guy said, but didn't you just tell me you met somebody and you about to change your business on one tip? Here's what the guy told him. He said, who do you think is going to be at the course for $35,000? People that can afford $35,000. So at some point, you must get into a mindset that you're going to position yourself in the right, you said earlier, environment exposure. Mm-hmm. How can you expect to be exposed to people that make a certain amount of money, that live a certain lifestyle, until you put yourself into an environment where the exposure can happen?
Yeah.
Right? So what I want to share with you guys right now is this. If you're listening to us right now, these young gentlemen right here, whether it's been mentorship, whether it's been environment, they've exposed themselves or been in the right places. They've paid the price, right? Whether directly or indirectly, to actually participate in their success. Translation, you got to show up for your own rescue. You have to show up for your own rescue. Don't try to shortcut the shortcut, guys. Pay the full price. Louis Vuitton never goes on sale.
Never.
Don't ask for the hookup at Louis Vuitton. Balmain never goes on sale, right? I'm off that soapbox. But I mean, but you guys drew that out. I mean, you're talking about you want expert information. Go pay the expert.
For sure.
But here's the other thing, too, that we're talking about diversification and paying your dues. What I've seen in both of these guys is you can't escape the hard work.
No.
See, you want the success, but what I have personally seen is you cannot escape. There were times during the summer when kids are going on vacation. These guys are at the house drawing up business plans, learning how to design websites. They're designing codes. And I tell people all the time, they are going to have problems in their life. Money just won't be one of them because they paid their dues.
Right.
They paid their dues. Let's wrap this up talking about multiple streams of income.
Yes.
Multiple streams of income. We talk about it. We just don't talk about it. We practice having multiple streams of income. And this is an exciting time to live right now because not only are you all personally and professionally in the financial services, whether that's at the enterprise level or on the personal level, but man, you guys have gotten into the crypto space. Right, Brandon, Mark and I are owners of a crypto education company, right? Yep. Where we teach people how to trade binaries. Well, we have educators who do that, and Brandon, we have trading sessions, at 10:30 Monday through Thursday. Jordan, you learning how to trade, and now you all started a real estate business where you all did some wholesaling, right? Look, guys, they did all this in college, right? And you formed that company with Haley, my daughter, your sister. Talk about your very first deal wholesaling, right? Because it freaked all of us out. This is what we had to convince Haley. No, you going to college. You know what I'm saying? Because of the commission they got from the first deal. Talk real quickly about the wholesaling and getting into real estate. We're going to wrap this up with cryptocurrencies, some other neat things you guys are involved with right now.
Yeah, so wholesaling was something that I was introduced to from my dad, Spencer, and also my uncle, Ivan, as well. But our first deal was crazy. It was crazy. I don't think we've ever seen that much money at one time, especially my sister. That's why she wanted to drop out of college. But a long story short, if you don't know what wholesaling is, by the way, wholesaling, to make it very simple, you're acting as a middleman. You're finding distressed properties and finding a motivated seller, right, that's trying to sell their home because it's a distressed property, and then you then help them find an investor, and then you kind of keep the commission. So that's what we did. We did a practice called driving for dollars, where we're driving,
it is exactly what it sounds like. You are driving around looking for distressed properties.
You're looking for distressed properties. It's a grind. You're spending a couple hours a day looking for houses. You're writing down addresses of properties that you think might be distressed. And then from there, you're doing some skip tracing, where you're finding the numbers of the property owners and then reaching out to them. Sometimes you might get cussed out. Sometimes you might find a buyer or a seller, and other times you won't get any answers because the number is not real. So it's a grind. But to make a long story short, back in February we had our first deal from a nice lady that was looking to sell their property. It was actually their son's property, but they got divorced and they no longer needed the property. So we reached out to them at the perfect time. We gave them an offer of $110,000, but they were trying to sell it for $200,000. So there was obviously a big difference.
A little bit of difference there.
A little bit of a difference, but
that's the real Delta variant.
right. That's the real Delta variant. But we just, told them the facts of the property. Like, this is the market, these are the comps, and this is what your house is worth. And we didn't hear from them for a little bit. And by a little bit, I only mean 48 hours, because in 48 hours, they realized that they weren't going to get any better offers compared to us. And we had been contacting them for 2 months. We had built a relationship with her and her husband, and they only wanted to work with us. So wholesaling really is a relationship business, and you can't be afraid to talk to people, to put yourself out there and build a relationship, because people will sell their house to people that they like. So that's something that I learned, and she came down on her offer. She went down to 140, and I said, if you do this deal today, we'll do it at 130. And she signed on the dotted line at 130. And from there, we contacted investors. Jordan handled that part, where we contacted people who would like to buy and hold the property. And within 2 hours, Jordan probably had 8 people ready to look at the property, right? And we literally had an open house of 7, 8 investors walking around, bumping into each other, taking pictures of the house. And our offer to them was 165. So like I said before, we got it under contract for 130. We were looking for 165, and one lady came to us and said, I'll do the deal. And they took it. And within 8 days, we closed the house at 165, making a $35,000 commission, split it between me, Jordan, and Haley. And the rest is history. So
that was a check for
$11,660.
And we went to a nice dinner to celebrate.
Right.
That's exciting. But guys, listen, I hope you're listening. I mean, these are 23-year-olds who are just it's the ultimate hustle game. They're educating themselves and finding a way to, and you're learning a lot in the process. Now you know more about real estate than you ever knew, right? Now let's talk about, and you also have other properties now. You're still in the mix. You're still doing your financial planning. You still got other ventures but this is something else you've added to the multiple streams of income mix. Let's talk about crypto, and then end with something called NFTs, right? People are like, man, what in the world is NFT? We're going to tell you in just a second. Talk about what you're doing in the crypto space. I know both of you guys have great crypto portfolios. Let's talk about that and what's happening. Go ahead, Jordan.
So where do you start? I mean, I think both Brandon and I have known about crypto for a while.
Right.
I remember Brandon telling me a story about how a kid in his high school class was, telling him about Ethereum, telling him about Bitcoin.
2012.
Wow. And Brandon was like, man, who is this kid?
I don't know what he was talking about.
Yeah. and I remember Brandon saying that kid is probably a millionaire right now.
Right.
A multi-millionaire.
Right.
And for me personally, I told Brandon that I first heard about cryptocurrency when I took a school trip to San Francisco, and we were, visiting a lot of different companies, and all of them at the time, I think it was 2017, they kept mentioning about, the blockchain and cryptocurrency. I think I didn't have money. I was a, college student at the time. So I remember buying like, $20 worth of Ethereum. I was like, okay, we'll see where that goes.
Right.
I think, I ended up checking it years later, and it was like $60 or something like that. Yep. But, now it's just been something interesting for us to stay tuned to see how, people of all different ages are adopting it, but especially the young generation is really, gravitating to it, and and sees it and sees the use case in it.
Yeah.
And so we'll shoot messages to each other about coins that we like that are involved in sports, that are involved in DeFi, decentralized finance, NFTs, whatever it may be. And that's just been something fun for us to keep up with. I think that it's interesting because, the growth we're seeing in crypto is a growth in the asset that we haven't seen in a long time and may not see for a long time. So I think a lot of people are really, seeing this. Obviously, there's a lot of people who are scared of it. In the financial services world with banks, you'll see a lot of people who are hesitant because it's different, and and a lot of these industries are kind of stuck in their ways. But a lot of people are really passionate about what could come of it, and I think we're just getting started in that realm for sure.
Matter of fact, just again, when you all did the real estate deal, what percent did we have Haley put into crypto of her 11,000, like 80%, something like that? Yeah, we had her. She was allowed to take a little bit for herself, but putting that we had her put 80% into coins, go through her 4 years of college, and again, when she comes out of college, she's going to have problems. Money just won't be one of them, right? Again, guys, it's just about teaching your kid. And we hope that we have a lot of parents who are listening. These are strategies, and you can make it fun for your kids. You can make wealth building fun for your kids. Again, Brandon and I talk multiple times a day about assets, investments, things we heard, what's going on in the crypto market, what's going on with trading. And we've made it this kind of our thing, right? Getting rich. It's kind of like our family thing, and it's fun, right? So let's wrap this thing up with NFTs, because that's a new space. We were talking about it just earlier today. What are NFTs? Why is it hot right now? Why is it something that, everyone should be looking out for on the horizon in terms of wealth building and investing?
Yeah, so NFTs is the newest craze that's going on in the crypto market. So if you don't know what a NFT is, it stands for non-fungible token, right? So if you know what fungible means, that means it's interchangeable, something that is identical. So if I give you a dollar bill and you give me a different dollar bill back, then it's fine because it's the same value. But a non-fungible token is something that's a unique asset, something one of one. And so we're seeing really NFTs pop off because they're turning into digital collectibles, right? So think of baseball cards and how the value of baseball cards, depending on its rarity, goes up in value over time. So that's basically what an NFT is, but in the digital blockchain space. And it's been going crazy the past 5 months, and something me and Jordan have been closely monitoring because we definitely want to dive into it in our personal portfolios. For example, there's a big collection of NFTs called Bored Ape. And they started off at 0.5 Ethereum. So at the time, that was about $1,000. So if you got in and bought an ape, right, which is just these kind of cartoon monkeys, it's a unique monkey that you can buy, and they all have different attributes.
Seen it, and it looks horrible. But anyway, beauty is definitely in the eye of the beholder. But go ahead.
Yeah, and if you go on Twitter right now and look at Steph Curry's profile picture, he might change it by the time you see this, but he has a Bored Ape, I believe now, as his profile picture. So celebrities are getting into this space, but now one Bored Ape just sold for $13 million.
Oh my God!
Right. So these NFTs are becoming a huge part of the crypto universe. We're looking into some now called Lazy Lion. We're looking at one called Sushi Universe. There's a lot of NFTs that are hitting the market and earning people millions of dollars if they're just holding for a couple months, if you get into the right ones. So it's definitely something that people should put their eye to, and it's pretty exciting.
Go ahead, Jordan. Yeah, I know you've been researching it for a second too.
Yeah,
well.
I mean, the thing that got me interested in NFTs was NBA Top Shot, which is kind of, these digital almost digital sports cards for basketball that are selling for crazy amounts of money. And, I think early in 2021, in a few months, they had done, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. And that's what kind of got me paying attention to it. And for me personally, I'm not interested in collecting 100%, but I am interested in companies that are working with the technology and are doing them and catering to people who are really passionate about, the whatever it may be, whether it's the comics, whether it's the digital cards, the asset itself. And so in my opinion, it's something I'm very interested in. Obviously, that's never financial advice because I think just as anything, there's going to be a lot of NFTs that are obviously every NFT isn't going to shoot up in value over years. I think it's really important, choosing wisely which ones you pick and doing your research, but also knowing what other people are looking for in NFTs. I think a lot of people are kind of going into NFTs just saying it's an NFT, I'll buy it and hold it, it's going to go up.
.com era, right?
Exactly. And I think the smart people are paying attention to, what are the classics in this space? What are the ones that in 5 years are going to age really well? And what are people really paying attention to? And I think there's definitely opportunity, of course, if you go in playing it smart.
I think you made an incredible point talking about researching and really understanding what it is you're buying, not just buying anything. One thing I want people to really consider as they talk about it is, case in point, years ago there was the gold rush, right? It was the California gold rush, but then there was the Alaska gold rush. So I kind of lived and worked in Seattle for a period of time, right? And when I was out there, it was interesting because I did a tour downtown Seattle, right? And there was a whole city under the city. I didn't know that. So Seattle actually burned down at one point, and they built over top of the old city. Anyway, so one of the things they talked about was on every corner just about, there were stores that sold to the individuals that were going out to panhandle, to going out to, look for gold. And even though some people got rich, 90% of people didn't actually find any gold. The people that got the wealthiest were the ones that sold the shovels
and the buckets
and the pans.
Yep.
Case in point, if you want to be in this space, maybe you want to learn about the shovels blockchain. Maybe you want to, be a solution provider that can actually do something for someone that's going to be out there in the crypto space, right?
Yes.
So money is not only at one point, but it's the supporting systems around where the money is. Right. There's a lot of money made as well.
Yeah, it's all about perspective, and that's something. It's so ironic you mentioned that because your dad taught me that concept about shovels and buckets years ago in the home-based business space. He's like, Iverson, look, the people who really make the money aren't the people doing the distributors and building in the comp plan. It's the folks who are giving the trainings and providing the tools and doing the back offices and all that kind of stuff for multiple companies, providing the shovels and the buckets, providing the support. Guys, there's so many different ways to attack wealth building. There's so many different ways. It's about being open-minded, right? Making yourself uncomfortable for a little while because you may not know anything about cryptocurrency. You may not even believe in it, but don't mistake the fact that just because you don't believe in it, people aren't becoming wealthy from it. You may not know what an NFT is from an MFT, SEC, whatever. I don't, but when my son and Jordan are talking about it, I'm listening because I'm willing to make myself uncomfortable for a little while to be comfortable for a lifetime. And that's what Success Illustrated is all about. Man, we want to thank Brandon Iverson, Jordan Williams. How can people find it? If they want to follow you guys, whether it's for what you're doing currently with financial planning, wealth advice. I know you guys got a podcast coming out. Yep. Talk about your podcast real quick, but start with where people can find you.
Yeah, so if you want to follow me personally, I have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can just search Brandon Iverson, Instagram, Brandon_Iverson. Jordan, you can give yours.
So for me, Instagram is JPWill23. The main thing I'm always pushing is the book.
I love it.
You can get the book on my website, which is jordanwill.com.
Guys, we'll have all of this on our websites, on our social media feeds as well, so you guys can follow Brandon and Jordan, reach out to them, all kinds of good stuff. Were you gonna say something more?
Absolutely. And if you're watching this on one of our visual channels like YouTube, all this information will be right below as well.
That's right below. Okay, and talk about the podcast you guys are starting.
Yeah, so we have a podcast called Background Checks. And so basically with the wake of the pandemic, a lot of people realize they can't rely on one paycheck, right? With hiring freezes, with, loss of salaries, people had to realize I need to learn a new trade. I need to learn a new skill. And that's something that you guys have taught as well in your personal businesses. And we found a lot of our friends were coming to us about how can I learn about investing, learn about NFTs and crypto like we just talked about, but at the same time, not at the expense of their current career. How can I do it in the background? So that's kind of the reason why we started Background Checks is, keeping your career in the forefront, but at the same time, allocating time to earning some paychecks in the background with multiple streams of income. So that's what we advocate. That's what we talk about in our podcasts. And once again, it's called Background Checks.
I love it, guys. Make sure you tune in to Background Checks. I'm sure it'll be on all social media platforms. We're going to wrap this up. Guys, we have a mentorship program we're thrilled about called Worthy of Millions. We feel that everyone has the capacity. This is not about being a millionaire. It's not saying you are, everything is about money. What we are saying is that in whatever your space is, that ultimately you can become worthy of millions. And we've created this mentorship community, Mark. We've been asked for years to mentor.
Yes.
And so we have a website. Both of our websites are affirmations. I am Success Illustrated. I am worthyofmillions.com. Go to the website. Join our mentorship community. We have people from all over the world, all walks of life, who get a chance to plug in, become a part of that community, tap into our VIP list of resources, contacts, and we're connecting people, and they're sharing their stories. There'll be parts of our podcast or on video where we'll have the Success Illustrated Person of the Week. We'll have someone who's become worthy of millions, and we'll highlight that person. But Mark, talk about why you're excited about Worthy of Millions in the mentorship program.
Absolutely. And I was once told, Spencer, growing up that, you can't coach everyone individually.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges, we turned into opportunities. We went from how do we do this? It can't be done, to let's create a platform where we can at least share our connections, our resources, our own personal, intellectual property and talents with as many as possible. So we're going to do multiple, live Zooms a week for less than cost of a cup of coffee a day.
Yep.
People can plug into that. There's also a personal coaching option on there. But most importantly, it's a community. It's a tribe that where individuals can plug in, they can feel connected, and they can go out there and become that which they're looking for, worthy of. And millions, again, is something that is interchangeable with the word success.
That's right.
It's interchangeable with the word excellence. It's interchangeable with the, with pulling out the best of you.
Yep.
So if you want the best pulled out of you, hitch on to what we got going on here, guys. We're going to do that.
I love it. I love it. Get your Worthy of Millions bundle as well.
Yes.
We have just 5 hours of content on the bundle, right? Topics like change is good, maybe even necessary. Here's one we set an entire day aside to do. Wherever you go, there you are. This is about personal self-development. But guys, we have a bundle where you can start your mentorship right now, today. You can start becoming worthy of millions. There'll be a lot of freebies thrown in. You can go to IamWorthyOfMillions.com, get that bundle, create Drive Time University, like Floyd Williams taught me, and you grew up in the car, right? Cassette after cassette after cassette. But that is where the seed was planted. Imagine if you're a parent out there and your child jumps in the car, and instead of listening to, Spotify, or instead of listening to Apple Music, instead of listening to Tidal, in the latest hip hop and R&B. Again, I love my hip hop and R&B. I love my rap. But what if there was an equal balance of personal self-development where you're listening to the podcast?
Background checks.
Background checks. Listen to the background checks, right? The back office, right? Listen to the background checks, or you're listening to something that's feeding your mind on a consistent basis, because what you feed grows. That's one of your things, right? What you feed grows, right? Guys, again, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Success Illustrated. Again, you can find us on all social media platforms. Like we always like to say, guys, we want you to become the embodiment of Success Illustrated. We feel that ultimately you have the capacity to become worthy of millions.
Remember, never dream small dreams, because small dreams don't have magic.
Take care, everybody.